Personality traits and styles. This is an opportunity for you to gain an inside understanding of the people that you work with, and more importantly, for about yourself. Jung is a gentleman who spent a fair bit of time leading in development of tracking traits of personalities. If you remember, trait is different than a style. So a trait is a characteristic way a person perceives, feels, thinks, believes, acts. And a primary aspect of Jungian personality traits he found was being an introvert versus being an extrovert. And I've been certainly thought of myself, and if you ask anyone who knows me at any degree, they'll throughout my career, it's that I'm an extrovert. Although I've had some periods where I've been quieter. When I'm with my wife's family, I'm the quiet one. Boy, are they loud. I had early on always thought that I'd been an extrovert and spent much of my career in leading and managing, so that it was a natural part of my job, and it was a large part of every day, 6, 7 days a week. And I heard the definition of an introvert was someone who recharged their batteries by having quiet time, reading a book on their own, things like that. Versus an extrovert is one who recharges their batteries by going to a party and being the life of the party. By that definition, I'm probably an introvert rather than an extrovert, so it's kind of interesting to watch the difference. And I think it's just because I've spent so much of my career as an extrovert that I need to have some balance. When I've been interviewing for salespeople, I have used a common question, and it's not meant to be a trick question. It's really to understand, although they might answer it wrong. But I am focused on seeing if they're extroverts and introverts by saying, what do you do when you go to a party? And if they're the sort of person that goes to a party and kind of sits quietly on the couch by themselves, and is polite to people when they come up, but doesn't seek out anybody, and kind of goes home at night. And I must confess, in my busy times at work, I've done this with my wife, with her friends, versus the person who has a lampshade on their head and is just, with or without alcohol. And I think too much of society is focused on alcohol. I might go a month without a drink, and that's not a problem. I'm usually the designated driver with my buddies. But I'm not shy, and I want to hire the person who has the lampshade on. I want the one that's the extrovert, the one that's that everybody loves to follow, the one with all the jokes, the one people just like hanging out with. I can't teach someone how to be an extrovert. And you notice in this class, there are a number of introverts, people that will never, ever answer a question I pose unless I drag it out of them, and I will continue to do so. But I can teach sales. I can teach sales techniques. I can teach, I could certainly teach project management skills and software development skills, but I don't know about teaching people how to be an extrovert. So that's something I look for as a characteristic for the position of being a salesperson. Now, Jung also found some other attributes as personality traits: the sensing, thinking, intuiting, and feeling. We're going to cover a few of these in subsequent slides, but let's move on to the Myers-Briggs approach, where they actually picked this as opposing dimensions and divided into 4 areas: extrovert versus an introvert, sensing versus intuiting, thinking, feeling, and judging, perceiving. So those were the things that Myers-Briggs has created a personality test, and I'll pass one on to you, just again so you can understand yourself a bit better and that of your team. The personality traits of project managers, some research has seen that the style of project managers really tied to the position on the judging perceiving scale of the Myers-Briggs profile. So those on the judging side are most likely people who buy the book. This is it. I want to be rigid. I don't want to have any change. Where those that are people oriented or on the perceiving side are at the other end of the scale. Now, a word of caution here is that judging is not being judgmental. It's rather the quantitative instead of the qualitative aspects that perceiving focuses on. So a judging personality trait, if you are on the judging side of the scale, you probably prefer to set clear, measurable goals. You're going to break down large tasks into subtasks. You're going to develop a timeline. You're going to come to closure quickly. You're not going to want to change decisions once you've made them. You like to work in a structured environment. You believe the recipe for success is plan the work and work to plan. If you haven't heard that one before, you probably will again in life. So make a point of understanding what it means. Establish rules for when decisions are made. Be motivated by achievement and want to achieve results when on one project and then move on to the next one. Some cautions for those project managers who are predominantly judging. You might confuse the plan with the project. You're so focused on the plan that you don't want to have any changes, and because of that you miss opportunities by failing to adapt. You mistakenly assume everyone is motivated. Why isn't everybody getting up and going to work at 6 a.m.? And people don't like you because you keep coming by and reminding them of deadlines. Making decisions without all the information you need. You're appear by others to be rigid. You may not think you are. And you're limiting the creativity that could be valuable in a project's development, and sometimes you're setting some unrealistic timelines that don't account for just human nature getting in the way. Now the perceiver, you'd realize that a plan doesn't ensure everything will go well. You're going to stay open to changing the plan. You're going to find what motivates others. Maybe it's autonomy, opportunity for new skills, a promotion, money, getting home at 5 o'clock to pick up, getting home at 6 o'clock to pick up your son from daycare. Maybe you need to develop or regularly scan the environment for new information, whether it's the marketing folk or it's customers, and you plan for spontaneity. So maybe you set some brainstorming periods where you can watch as people coalesce and come out with a common goal together, and you allow them to work in their own ways without letting them off the hook on making the final product dates. And so early in the process, you're seeking feedback on the feasibility of timelines, and you're getting buy-in. So that's the perceiver end of the spectrum. If you're looking at one versus the other, they're valuable personality traits, and by understanding yours, it helps you to compensate for your traits that might not be natural, and it also helps you guard against being overzealous in the traits that are most natural for you. So let's take a look at this last slide. I remember taking this when I was, I think I was probably 4 or 5 years into my career, and the company paid for us to go through and do the social styles analysis. And I am, or at least I was then, they say you don't change, but I've had so many changes in my life. I think I have absolutely changed. When I started this, I was an expressive. So I was in the far right corner. So you could be like a driver, an expressive, amiable, and you can see all this was divided into another set of quadrants within each one of them. But that was the area that I was in, and what a surprise. Maybe I haven't changed. I'm certainly an entrepreneur. So there you go. That's the difference between being an expressive, say, and being a driver. Now the interesting thing is when you are overloaded, then what happens is you actually switch into the opposite category. And so if I'm just so far behind on work, I will go from, I find that when it comes to work-oriented areas where I got to get things done, I have no problems being a driver. But when I get overworked, I'll flip over to being an amiable and go, man, it doesn't matter what I do, I just can't beat this set of action items. So it'd be very interesting to see where you were in these different quadrants.